Now that the Darktide beta is all but ended, and logging more than 25 hours in my veteran guardman and getting him to level 20, I feel like I've experienced most of what the beta has to offer. In this video, I'm going to be covering the good, the bad, and the ugly about Darktide. There are two types of games that I've noticed over the years. Games that have the core aspect fleshed out and play well, but need little quality of life tweaks to make it perfect. The second type is games that have all that you could ask for, but the core gameplay is weak. Thankfully, Darktide is the former. For a 40k game, the atmosphere is spot on. They've done a terrific job regarding this. The level design really makes you feel small and puts you into perspective. Every space you walk into makes you want to take the time to process every detail, and you end up wanting more. Fat Shark has done a very good job in capturing the size of 40k. Everywhere you walk, everything that you do, it feels small. You feel insignificant. You can see in front of you, this is the hub where you can see other players as well as yourself. You're basically in a spaceship above Atoma Prime, above the Hive City itself. If you still can't imagine the size and scale of 40k, this is the city that we're going to be playing in. This is a Hive City. It can house up to 1 billion people or 10 billion people. The absolute scale of 40k is insane. With the experience they've gained from making Vermintide 1 and 2, there should be no surprise that Darktide has the same well-paced core gameplay that we know and love. Currently, there are 4 classes, with each class having only one subclass on release. Darktide takes a page out of Vermintide in regards to combat. To break it down, it's very simple. It's still meta to dodge left and right, shove, attack, and repeat this to ad infinitum. Even though I've done this for hundreds of hours, the gameplay is still engaging and addictive. Darktide differs from Vermintide in that you can play 4 of the same classes in a match. The combat is split between melee and range. This ultimately leads to a nice balance in the game that was desired in the Vermintide series. The weapons and their designs are also expected of 40k. For example, there's literally a chainsword where you can brutally hack people in two. For ranged weapons, there's the revolver, the las gun, the auto gun, the auto pistol, the force staff, the ripper gun, and the thumper. We also have the flamer and the plasma gun, which I didn't get to test in the beta. For melee weapons, there's the shovel, the axe, the sword, the chainsword, thunderhammer, force sword, club, and cleaver. Just like Vermintide, the enemy design feels diverse and good. You have your typical grunts, then there are your range enemies that promote gun gameplay, then there are the special enemies that allow a change in pace and chaos. Then of course you have your bosses that might show up during the level. Enemies also feel diverse, and specials don't feel forced and are well thought out. I have to say, when they announced that you could customize your characters, I was worried we weren't going to get a lot of choice, but thankfully that fear is misplaced, as there is a ton of choice, and you can mold the character that best suits you. I have yet to see 2 people look alike, and you also have 3 personalities that you can choose from that give you different sets of voice lines, so you'll rarely see 2 characters sound alike. I also feel like the customization choices make sense. In 40k, the world is a gritty, grim, dark place. Your characters aren't meant to look pretty. As a matter of fact, they're supposed to look battered and beat up, and I think the choices here reflect that. I must admit, I've been blown away about how amazing the music is in this game. Jesper Kid did a fantastic job regarding this music. Sadly, I have not been able to find it on YouTube, as I would literally be listening to it right now. I think all the songs are bangers, and especially when the chaos is starting and the battle's going on and you're fighting hordes and the music's in the background, it's amazing. Like, it fits. It perfectly fits in 40k. It's grim dark. It matches with the gameplay. I love it. I must admit, just like with character customizations, I also had a fear for voice lines, as I was scared that we wouldn't get the same level of cohesion and banter that we get from Vermintide 2 and 1, where the characters have camaraderie and they talk with each other, and you get little tidbits of their characteristics and you connect with them. But with the thousands of voice lines that Fat Shark has added for the different personalities for each class, it feels like all the characters kind of work together and they actually do speak together, which is nice. Now that we've covered the good, which is essentially 90% of Darktide's core gameplay, we're going to move on to the bad. As I had stated previously before, Darktide is only missing 10% of itself, and it's mostly just UI and other quality of life changes it needs. I'm going to list these quality of life changes and UI changes in just list form. So here we go. So what first needs to be addressed is the lack of information. There are no teammate health shield numbers, no indicate for ammo display for them, no ability bar identifier for teammates, weapon display stat bars instead of numbers, endgame screen lacks individual player stats to know how well you did, kill feed for specials that doesn't have icons, just names, no way to compare weapons and their pointless stat bars. For quality of life, the ping system is horrible. In Vermintide, you can see a blue outline of ammo and med packs, but it's barely visible now. Resources like plasteel are not shared on pickup, making the grind artificially longer. If you get bots on your team, you cannot pick what classes they are for your mission. You cannot access the shop from anywhere in the hub like Vermintide. A lack of level cap for higher tier missions. Backing out of pre-lobby resets you to the beginning of the hub and not the mission picker. No way to turn off profanity filter, it's extremely excessive. The hub is empty, there's no dummy to test weapons unlike Vermintide. You don't show up in the same hub as your teammates when in a strike team. You cannot select what missions you want to do and what difficulty specifically. It's all random. Sprinting feels weird. If I had to describe it, it's more like a Call of Duty double sprint, if that makes sense. Only 4 classes / subclasses on launch. Talents are lackluster and are only slight stat boosts. Class abilities are insignificant. For example, the Guardsman has the Widowmaker ult, and both the Zealot and the Ogryn just dash. No button to do a victory shout like in Deep Rock Galactic. Lack of mouse settings in the beta. There's no sensitivity slider currently for the beta. No push to talk currently. You cannot scroll up in chat. Currently, keybinds and settings reset when you restart the game. I would still like to reiterate that this is a beta and this could be possibly an older version of the game. But remember when Battlefield 2042 beta dropped and people were complaining about how buggy it was and the devs used the excuse that it was an older version of the game? I do have some fears that within a month and a half, I don't see Fat Shark fixing most, if not all, of these problems. Now that we covered the bad, let's move on to the ugly. In reality, for the ugly, I only really have one point to make, and that's the profanity filter. In all honesty, it's disappointing to see that over the years, gaming companies and developers have been reducing avenues of social connection under the umbrella of combating toxicity. Games are meant to be played together, and they help us connect with each other over great lengths. For example, Remnant from the Ashes released with no chat. I can't explain to you how infuriating it is not to be able to talk to your teammates and make callouts. Darktide's profanity filter is extremely worrying in a game where you and 3 other friends are playing co-op and you cannot say these simple words. In a game where snipers exist and you have to call them out because they do a ton of damage, you cannot say sniper. You cannot say kill that sniper because kill and sniper are censored. In a game where you have a chainsword and you can hack people in half, you cannot say kill. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Also, do not search up sniper on Urban Dictionary. I simply do not understand this style of filter that punishes players who want to actively communicate with their teammates and work together. With the good, the bad, and the ugly being covered, I have to say I am a little worried about Darktide in the coming future. With the game releasing in 1.5 months from now, the core 90% of the game is good, but these quality of life and UI improvements that they need and have to fix will easily spill over into the coming months and years post-launch in forms of fixes, which does worry me because more time fixing means less time making content. The single biggest problem in my opinion for Vermintide 2 was just the lack of proper DLCs and quality of DLCs. For example, Winds of Magic was widely disliked and their DLCs typically only had 2 to 3 missions when they were added. I do hope in the future for DLCs it's not just cosmetics and we do actually get proper DLCs that expand with more content, more classes, more weapons. I'm willing to pay for quality. I don't mind paying for DLCs as long as the DLCs are good. One final last thing, I do want everyone to know that I want this game to succeed, not only because I know I'm going to enjoy it, but I want Games Workshop to most importantly understand that there are people out there like me, like you, who like 40K but don't want to get into the little miniature figurines. I'm not interested in painting. I'm not interested in spending $800 for plastic. I want a good game. I want a movie. I want a TV show. I want to consume 40K through different types of media. That's why the Total War Warhammer games are successful, because there's a market out there for people who want to enjoy 40K and Warhammer Fantasy, but for the last decade, all we've been getting is crappy mobile games or RTS games like Dawn of War 3, for example. Dawn of War 2 and Dawn of War 1 were great, but hopefully this game is that successful, so that way we get more sequels in the future and more games in the future. Like, how cool would it be if instead of Darktide, we had Space Marines versus Orcs? Like, Orcs are awesome in the 40K universe, and Space Marines are cool. Everyone knows what a Space Marine is. That's my review. This video's gone long enough. I want to know what your opinion is of the game. If you think it's going to be successful, what they can improve, what they can maybe change. Hey, you better like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell. Otherwise, Bob here is going to get it.